Доброго дня, про ситуацію у зоні.
Now we have a press briefing of Ministry of Defense of Ukraine spokesman on ATO-related issues, Colonel Oleksandr Motuzyanyk. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Now, the information about the events that happened yesterday in the ADO zone. Lugansk sector, Stanично-Lugansk region. Yesterday in the evening, the enemy violated ceasefire 3 times. In all cases, the enemy used small arms. In the Vydarsk region, the enemy was active only in Krymska, where during second part of the day, the enemy shelled ATO positions with the use of grenade launchers and with the use of armored vehicles. In the Popasnyansky region, the situation was quieter than the day before. Short-term provocations delivered by the enemy were recorded in the region of Novozvanivka and Oleksandrivka. And during the last one, the enemy launched at the direction of Ukrainian position 1 mine. So on the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Lugansk sector, there were 10 enemy shellings. The Donetsk sector in Svetlodarsk Bulge, 1 shelling delivered by the enemy was recorded. It happened in the region of Novolugansk late in the evening. Heavy weapons was not used. The Gorlovka perimeter, there during the day it was absolutely quiet, and only at about 9 p.m. the occupants launched 2 mortar mines at ATO forces in the region of Verkhnytorets. In the region of Avdiivka, for the first time, the militants reminded about themselves in the morning by carrying out short-term armed provocation near Kamenka. Then it was quiet until 3 p.m. and then the enemy restarted firing in Avdiivka industrial zone. And first shelling lasted for 1 hour, and the militants widely used grenade launchers and machine guns and launched at our positions 5 mines. And also shellings restarted in the region of Avdiivka after 6 p.m. and lasted until midnight. Mortars were used by the enemy sporadically, but in the majority of cases the enemy used small arms and grenade launchers. The Donetsk airport, there was 1 instance of violation of ceasefire late in the evening in the region of Novolugansk. And for half an hour, the militants delivered fire with the use of small arms and weaponry of APCs. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Donetsk sector, there were 12 enemy shellings, including 6 with the use of heavy weapons. The Mariupol sector, Mariinsky region. In Mariinka, there was 1 mortar shelling delivered by the Russian occupation forces. In neighboring Krasnogorovka, the enemy during the day fired at the positions of ATO forces with the use of tank and twice with the use of mortars. And 1 of the mines got into the yard of local school. Fortunately, there were no teachers and children there. And 2 mines blew up near a residential house. And the local woman was wounded and she was hospitalized. Volnovasky region, there twice the enemy used small arms, shelling our positions in the region of Novotroitsk, and in Bogdanivka after midnight the enemy used mortars. In Chermalik, Shirokina part of front line, yesterday there were numerous short-term enemy provocations with the use of small arms and armored vehicles. And also the enemy repeatedly violated ceasefire with the use of heavy weapons, launching during the day in this part of front line more than 30 mines and 3 artillery shells. And in the majority of cases, heavy weapons was used in the region of Chermalik and in Gnutovo-Talakivka and Vodyane. Shellings were delivered by snipers of the enemy, and the military actions were during the day and at night. On the whole, in the Mariupol sector, there were 36 enemy shellings, including 14 with the use of heavy weapons. During the last 24 hours, and the result of the military actions, 2 Ukrainian servicemen were killed. 5 servicemen were wounded, and one of the servicemen who was killed is the serviceman of the National Guard. Our hearts go out to the relatives of servicemen who died for Ukraine. And at Volnovaha checkpoint, police officers detained a militant who tried to cross the line of contact in order to get Ukrainian pension in the controlled territory. In the course of search, law enforcers identified that in 2015, resident of Donetsk joined Cossack Union of Donsk Army, and there the man was working as a guard, and also together with other militants he extorted money from the traders in the market, and he wasn't paid and left the militants. And if this man voluntarily informed police about his participation, he would have had the opportunity to be released from criminal responsibility. Yesterday in Avdiivka, law enforcers confiscated the tank projectile that was in the wall of one of the buildings, and this was the result of the shelling delivered by the enemy. And this shell, fortunately, didn't explode, and otherwise it would cause ruining. And sergeants, soldiers, and officers of anti-aircraft forces had the training to destroy air drones of the enemy. The crews of anti-aircraft complexes were trained to counteract different types of aircraft, especially those that fly at low altitudes. And the Kharkiv guardsmen together with the police officers and SB officers and border guards took part in training in Kharkiv airport and locomotive hall. They continue preparations for European boxing championship. So they were trained how to counteract emergency situation during the event. And in Vinnytsia they had the comprehensive training for servicemen of National Guard of Ukraine and the servicemen of law enforcement and SB officers of National Police. The topic of the event is safeguarding of ammunition storage facility and against a group of subverters, and they model different types of emergency situation that can pose threat to military facilities. And in the forest they were trained how to follow and how to liquidate a subversive group of the enemy. Thank you. Do you have questions? No questions? Thank you and goodbye.